She put the storybook away. The children were finally asleep. She quietly approached each one, stroked their heads, carefully adjusted the blanket, kissed them, and left the boss. The little ones might wake in the night and be frightened. Carefully, she closed the door behind her and walked into the kitchen. The day was coming to an end, and it was possible to rest from the hassle. She drank her tea, glancing at the clock from time to time. It was approaching Nero, and her husband was still gone. Poor thing, the woman thought. All day long at work, the children don't see him at all. They miss him. When she heard the front door slam, she hurried into the hallway. She glanced at herself
In the mirror. The reflection of a pretty young woman in a tracksuit looked back at her. Noticing a dirty stain on her jacket, she tried to rub it, but waved her hand in a hurry. On the way, she was fixing her hair in a careless bundle. The husband, leaning against the wall, tried to take off his shoes. He finally succeeded. He splayed himself out and looked at his wife with a cloudy look. "Darling, here I am," Charles announced joyfully. He opened his arms. "Charles, you're drunk." Molly couldn't believe her eyes. "Why? I have a right to relax with my buddies at the end of the day, but you don't drink. And today you decided to change your principles. I'm tired as hell.
I work all the time. He yawned loudly, swayed and almost fell, but held on. So I went to a bar with my coworkers to relieve the tension. You can't blame me. I did come home. He was laughing. Instead of staying at a bar, or a buddy's, or maybe even a buddy's. The choice depends on how full your glass is. And I know my limit. That's why the navigator led me home. Poor me. He's joking. Molly hugged her husband and led him into the kitchen. Come on, I'll feed you first, and then I'll help you undress and leave the heel. You're our breadwinner. You can't work so hard. You don't know how to rest. No, I'm not hungry. We had a snack of smoked chicken wings with cognac. It was good to go straight to bed. He poked and prodded and staggered into the bedroom. Molly helped her husband undress and put him to bed. In a minute, he was asleep, smiling and sweet in his sleep. The woman looked at her husband lovingly.
My dear, fixed unruly hair. Saw the wrinkles between his eyebrows. Does cognac help you relax? I'd give you a massage. Rest, my love. Gain strength. Gently kissing her husband, she returned to the kitchen. She still had to clean everything. Prepare clothes for the children for tomorrow. Think about what tasty treat her husband for breakfast. Good morning, honey, Molly greeted her husband. She was already in the kitchen. Tomorrow's ready. Sit down at the table.
Oh, it smells so appetizing. Charles grimaced, holding his head. We had a good meal last night. Maybe we shouldn't work so hard. Somebody's got to provide for the family. We have enough to do. And the kids don't see themselves at all. Neither do I. She tried to kiss her husband, but he shied away. He got up from the table as he walked. What's going on with you lately? You haven't been home much? Yes, I'm working like an ox to make sure you have everything. And you wanted one more child. Your wife reproached you. And I'm sick of all these diapers, cradles, sleepless nights. I want to work. I'm waiting for the kids to grow up and go to kindergarten. There's your job. Charles nodded toward the nursery. Who's going to watch the house? After all, how my mom could help, and my mother-in-law could babysit, Molly reasoned as she set the table. The children came out of the room and piled into their father's arms. How can Grandma handle a crowd like that? Don't forget that my mother loves to travel. For her to refuse another trip abroad would be tantamount to death. He smiled, lifting each child in turn into his arms and kissing their rosy cheeks. Daughter 2-year-old Nancy sat on his lap. Still, I wouldn't mind if we had another baby girl. I don't even want to hear about it, Molly said angrily. I hope you haven't forgotten that That my birthday is coming up? I remember the present is on me. Charles carelessly kissed his wife out of his hurry to get to work. It's a shame. Daddy has to go make some money. See you tonight. After seeing her husband off, Molly called her mother. Mom? Good morning. Could you come over? Nancy. An hour later was at her daughter's bathyscaphe, but the Chads, who happily dragged Grandma to the nursery to show her new toys. Molly rebuked. Once already changed their clothes to more decent ones. Always no hair without makeup. Mom, I'm so comfortable. Looking at the homemade costume, objected the woman. Look, knees pulled out, jacket in the porridge stain herself pale, circles under the eyes. It's from lack of sleep. Looking at herself in the mirror, Molly said, the children will grow up, and I will definitely take care of myself. I don't understand why you had a third child at once. You could have waited a couple of years. Charles wants a girl. My mother gave a frightened gasp. But I said no. And rightly so. Have some time to yourself. You don't go out anywhere. It's all just home and the kids. You're a young, interesting woman. What have you turned into? A net at home? Aren't you afraid your husband will find someone more attractive? Why does he always stay late at work? Didn't wonder, how can you say that about Charles? Molly was outraged. We love each other. We have kids. He just works a lot. By the way, Mom, I've been meaning to ask you. It's my birthday in a few days. I want to have a romantic dinner. Just me and Charles. Taking the kids to your place? I can count on you to be good. Just be sure to buy a new dress. Not in that outfit with my husband by candlelight. She pointed to a stretched out suit. I think I'll do that. I don't like to spend money on myself, though. Charles has to carry the family all by himself. He spares no expense, of course, but I'm ashamed to go to him. 6 months ago, I bought this suit on sale at home, and no one can see me anyway. Do you really think your husband, Wataran, would be happy to see you so upset? Going shopping, looking for something for yourself? Mom, don't start. I'll buy a new dress, and if you don't mind, I'll go right now. I've got to get some more leather. Talking to her mother, Molly dressed quickly. Children obey Grandma, don't be naughty. Mommy will be back soon. Leaving the kids in Nancy's care, she went shopping for clothes. After shopping for groceries, Molly went to the clothing store. I'm so out of fashion, Molly thought, looking at the merchandise. Would you be so kind? She asked the smiling girl. You, who rushed to meet her as soon as she saw the interest in her eyes. You don't need a dress for a romantic dinner. Your figure is excellent. Evaluating, glancing at the buyer, said the salesman. Now, something to pick up. The girl offered several options and guided Molly in the fitting room, smiling, reflection in the mirror. Molly tried on one dress after another. How can I choose if I like them all? She thought as she put on another one. Honey, look, I like this dress. Molly heard a woman's voice in the next stall. Honey, you look beautiful. Molly looked younger. The man's voice belonged to her husband. There was no doubt about it. The man continued. I can already imagine taking it off you. From behind the thin partition came the sound of a kiss, a woman's muffled laughter. Molly stood not alive, dead, afraid of being discovered. You're such a prankster, Mishka, the woman spoke playfully. Jokingly slapped her lover's hands. Molly clearly heard every movement, every word. I want you right now, passionately uttered Charles. His breath hitched. There were sounds of struggle. Not here. What if someone comes in? The stranger tried to reason with her ardent lover, giggling coquettishly. While I, trying on evening dresses, you would have chosen a decent outfit for your wife. And that she is, you walks like a kusha in the same tracksuit. It's her birthday. I'll make the woman happy soon. She can get away with it. She's all about the kids. And they don't care what she wears, as long as she feeds them, changes their diapers, and puts away their toys. And I don't care what she wears around the house. What I care about is that you are always beautiful and dressed in comfortable clothes that are easy to take off. And underneath, erotic lingerie. Or better yet, no lingerie. Behind the partition, fiddling, singing, giggling was heard again. Molly, about the thin fabric of the dress, clamped her fist over her mouth so as not to give away the sobs that were bursting out. Her heart was bursting with resentment and pain. She refused to believe that her beloved husband was having fun with his mistress. Charles, you're driving me into a blush. I could hardly catch my breath. The woman spoke cheerfully. And yet I wonder what you gave her? Charles, Molly repeated to herself, the last ghostly hope that it wasn't him. Just a similar voice. It's gone. I'll get her a multi in the arch, or a bread oven. Let her enjoy it. She spends most of her time in the kitchen anyway. I'm a caring husband. He laughed. I make every provision for her comfort. She's not a good cook like you, by the way, but you're irresistible in bed. There was the sound of a kiss. Her pale skin makes me sick. I always think of your bronzed tan body and Molly's hided passion like a swing. Ice water. She, trying to make as little noise as possible, measured dresses. Herself listening to the voices from the neighboring fitting room. Ugh, you're so obnoxious. She is the mother of your children after all. The girl laughed. Yes, she is, the man sighed. That's why I have to live with her. But my heart is always with you, even in bed. When I make love to her, I think only of you. Who's pouting? I hope you won't be jealous of me. I'm going to buy you this beautiful dress. Oh my God, it looks great on you. And I'm sorry. There was the sound of kissing again. And if my wife asks where you spent your money... Capricious, the stranger asked. A multi-cooker and a bread oven can't cost that much. She cheated again. Why should I have to account for where I spend my money? I'm the one who works, and she's at home on everything. I allocate a certain amount for the household, and that's enough. Let her thank me for it. She's never been interested in how much I make. I'll take this. You're so cute. The voices began to drift away. She cautiously peeked out of her dressing room. There it was. Her beloved husband was standing at the checkout counter with a blonde woman paying for his purchases. After paying, he turned to her and, without shying away from the cashier, kissed the girl right on the lips. The woman sank down tiredly
On the soft floor of the fitting room, dropping her hands powerlessly on her knees. She stared at the set of dresses and noticed nothing around her. How much time passed, she didn't know until the heavy drapes were pulled back and the girl consultant asked sympathetically, "Woman, are you all right? How long have you been sitting here? I can help you with something." "I'm sorry," Molly said, coming to her senses. "It's okay. Will you be taking anything?"
Yes, I'll take everything," said the woman, handing the salesman a dress. What was it, Molly thought, sitting in the car, hesitating to move? Charles. I would give my life for is dating another woman. She dropped her head on the steering wheel and cried helplessly.
Do my shoulders shudder? Why? She asked herself a question and found no answer. Oh, we were fine. We've been together for so many years. I wonder how long they have been dating. But show me your new clothes, her mother demanded. When Molly returned home, laden with packages. Oh, did you really decide to buy some? Come on, guys, sit down comfortably. The children obediently sat down on the couch. Let's have a pre-holiday fashion preview. Mom, can we not do it now? Asked the woman, barely restraining not to cry and complain about the overnight collapse of family happiness. I'm tired. I have to feed the boys. I'll decide what dress I wear. Well, do you? Nancy's mad. Mommy, don't be angry with me. She kissed her mother's cheek conciliatingly. I've really got a lot to do. I swear. Walking her to the door, Molly promised. You'll have a chance to appreciate my choices. The woman fed the kids lunch and put them to bed. She had about 2 hours to be alone with her thoughts. How could I have been so blind and not notice that Charles had changed lately? She scolded herself and then answered. I didn't expect him to betray me like that. I didn't even think he could deceive me. It's not that he was unfaithful to me, but that he made me look like a grandmother in front of his mistress, who, except for the pots, floors, diapers, and a home robe nothing else needs. After all, it was he who insisted that I do only his children and the house. And how happy he was when we had 3 children, one after another. I also dreamed of a 4th. Bastard, she cried. I loved him so much, idolized him, and he trampled our feelings with dirty feet. I'll never forgive him, she wiped her tears resolutely. Then I'll get a divorce and let him go back to his long-legged blonde. She walked resolutely into the study. She sat down at her desk, opened her laptop, and began to write a statement. What's in it for me? Suddenly it dawned on her. But I'll file for divorce. He goes to his mistress, and I will be left with children without means of subsistence. The alimony is probably pennies. What will we live on? Don't be so hot. She talked herself into it. I don't want to give him a reason to enjoy the thought that I'm entirely dependent on him. We should get a job and then send him to hell. She finally made up her mind. Honey, I'm home, Molly heard. She had lost track of time, and she didn't expect to see her husband before midnight. How I missed you. Charles reached up to kiss her. Hypocrite, Molly thought with hatred, avoiding the caress. Where are my babies? He went into the nursery without noticing his wife's mood. You were surprisingly early to finish all the work. Just in time, Molly said with a sneer. I decided that today I've had enough. I reproached myself for not seeing the children, and I was often late. He intended to do it in the afternoon, the woman thought unpleasantly. Surprisingly, it didn't hurt her at all. All the feelings she had felt for her husband evaporated completely. How could she have been so wrong about him, she pondered. Always attentive, alert, she didn't understand what he lacked. In an instant, he had become a stranger to her. The only thing she worried about was that he would want intimacy, and she wouldn't be able to give it to him. It's disgusting to go to bed with a man who just recently cuddled another man. I wonder if he says the same sweet words to her, as he does to me, or is he inventing new ones? But the husband, apparently, got everything from his mistress and did not pester his wife. He immediately turned on his side and fell asleep. Molly lay awake for a long time. Strange, she thought. Her soul is empty. Not even jealousy. How easy it is to undo the years we've lived together. What am I going to do? Her heart ached. She wondered what the right thing to do was. I, with such love, built our home, tried to surround care and comfort. I taught my children not to make noise if Daddy was resting. And it's not a safe haven he's after. It's passionate sex with a long-legged blonde. Hot tears came out of my eyes. Resentment at her husband did not allow her to think straight. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Molly wiped her tears, tried to calm down. I need to be strong to get through this pain. I'm responsible for my children. Tomorrow, I'm going to look for a job. After all, I am an excellent accountant, although I have little experience. She drifted off to sleep, hoping it would bring relief. But Molly carefully reread her resume. Now send it to all agencies and companies and wait. Hopefully not for long. The days of waiting dragged on. Every morning, Molly opened her email in the hope of seeing a job invitation. Bingo! The woman rejoiced, having read once the cherished words, We invite you to an interview. So what kind of company is this, Molly? Oh, it's the company Charles works for. What should I do? She wondered. Maybe I shouldn't go. What if I don't get such a good offer again? Well, why not? They're willing to hire me part-time. It's worth a shot. I'll see who my husband has left his family for. I'd love to see the look in his eyes, Mom. That's when Molly called. She's Nancy. Can you babysit tomorrow? I really need to. The woman decided not to say anything to her mother about Charles and the job until the matter was resolved. Do I really see my daughter? Nancy looked surprised at Molly, dressed in a strict dark blue suit that emphasized her figure. You're a mother of 3. Thank you, Mommy, for the compliment. She kissed her mom. The children obey their grandmother. I'll be right back. You didn't say where you were going? Mother noticed. Not yet. Molly answered evasively. I'll come back and we'll talk. The waiting room was full of applicants. Looking at the girls, Molly realized that she had little chance of getting any position. All of them were tall, slim, beautiful, young, provocative outfits. She, with her short stature, hastily put in hair, in a strict suit looked like a white crow. She casually glanced at the manicured hands of the girl sitting next to her and hid her own. They had not seen a manicure for a long time. Pay attention to the boss. The girls were talking among themselves. So handsome. If I get a job, I'll definitely do him. They say he's single. I'm told he has a fiancé. One of them told me. Outdated information, assured another. He caught her with a lover and dumped her. God, Molly thought. What are you thinking? What about the ban on office romances? There are a lot of men here. You can get a good job. The main thing is not to get involved with married men. A dark-haired beauty with a lush bust spoke knowledgeably. What's the big deal? Objected Thin Blonde. Just do not overdo the request and do not demand a divorce. Himself later will propose, when he realizes the difference between me. For example, she languidly rolled her eyes and patted long calculating eyelashes. And the wife is not well groomed, sloppily dressed, which is not up to erotic games in bed, all herself put on the altar of family life. Are such wives our competition? You're the reason families fall apart, Molly thought with dislike. Sotnikova? Molly is. Suddenly heard a woman. Yes, I'm here without Molly. Come in, they're waiting for you. The girl's secretary, evaluating, looked at the applicant. The woman read in her eyes an outright mockery. Hello? Worried, she said. Have a seat, pointed to the table a handsome man of about 40 years old. Brown eyes looked carefully, as if trying to determine whether she was suitable for work in their firm. I've been going over your resume. Education is prestigious, university, financial, and economic faculty. But there are some downsides, not much experience. And small children, the children will go to daycare, huh? I will solve this problem soon, for, Molly hurried to explain, and experience will come. I love to learn. Just give me a chance. A part-time job would be fine. James shook his head doubtfully. The kids will start getting sick. Are you sure you can manage? I have someone to help. Grandma will be able to babysit, the woman assured him. An employee with your degree. We could use one, said the head of the firm, scrutinizing Molly sitting across from him. He noted the circles under her eyes, the tired look of deep gray eyes. But despite the traces of an obviously failed family life, she was very attractive. There was something about this woman that hooked him. He wanted to protect her, to help her, even at the expense of his own interests. I'm willing to take the risk of hiring you. I'm tired of dealing with stupid young accountants who can barely understand numbers and only think about love affairs. Our team consists mostly of men. Then they go on maternity leave, and I have to find replacements. You have a full complement, I see. He grinned, reading the information in the children's column. I wonder why he's going to work. And where's her husband? I would never let such a woman work. Studying with interest, a young mom, 3 kids. Thought, James, I'm taking you on probation. Oh, good, Molly agreed, looking at the man gratefully. She would be surprised to know what thoughts were going through her boss's head. That's fine with me. I'll pay you as a trainee for the first time. If your work satisfies me, we'll conclude a contract for long-term cooperation. He looked at her expectantly. Do you agree? Yes, I agree, Molly replied firmly. And again, James noted to himself, did not object at a small salary. It means that really interested in the work. Well, let's see how you show yourself. Go to human resources. I give a week to solve the problems with the placement of children in kindergarten. And then I expect an 8:15 at the workplace. Goodbye. Molly flew home like she was on wings. Mommy! She screamed from the doorstep. I've been hired! Hired! Aunt Nancy exclaimed in surprise. What's the news? What do you need a job for? Don't you have enough to do at home? Does Charles know what you're up to? Mommy, don't worry. Molly tried to calm her mother's confused mind. I'm divorcing her and Charles. As her mother slumped down on the living room couch. Are you out of your mind? I hope this is a joke. He cheated on me, the woman said with sadness in her voice. Yes, Mom. While I cooked borscht, put the children to bed, tried to be a good wife and mother. My dear husband was having fun on the side with another woman. When to cheat on him? Mother laughed. He works all the time. What are you making up? Well, he's working late. He's doing his best for you. He's not working late, but he can't be with his mistress. Charles is such a decent man. I've never heard a bad word from him. And he loves you. I don't doubt it. What about children? You said yourself that he wanted to have more children. I don't believe it. That's gossip. Where's the proof? Maybe he was just talked down to, the mother said with hope in her voice. No one talked back to him. I heard and saw everything myself. Maybe I misunderstood. You know, it happens. You think it's God knows what, but it's nothing. Or maybe the girl put on a show to slander Charles. Did she call you? No one called me. It was a total accident. They don't even know I know about their love affairs. That's great. Mother's happy. So we have to pretend it didn't happen, even if it was just a flirtation. Men sometimes allow themselves to do that. Why get a divorce right away? You have children? Think of them. He was picking out her evening gown. Molly told what she'd heard and seen in the store. I think, Nancy insisted, we should talk to Charles. Surely there must be some explanation for this. Mother, they're lovers, and probably have been for a long time. It's just that he was very skillful at hiding his infatuation with another woman. Or I was a gullible fool and believed everything he made up to justify his tardiness at work. I don't want my children to grow up in a lie, and I hate getting into bed with him after he's been with someone else. He betrayed our feelings, spit on my soul. They laughed at me. And you're suggesting we forgive him? Well, Mother sighed. I won't talk you out of it. I agree. Betrayal cannot be forgiven. Thank my. She touched, hugged her. My daughter. The woman looked at her. But how will you live? You have 3 children in your arms. He provided everything for you. I don't need anything from him. Will you help me? Of course, sighed Nancy. I'm your mother. I'm on probation. In a week's time, the first day of work. The salary, of course, as a trainee was not very big, but it was enough to feed myself and my children. I wrote an application to the kindergarten. As soon as the kids are accepted, I'll go full-time. Oh, my daughter, Nancy shook her head. It's gonna be tough. It's okay. I can handle it. But I won't have my name dragged through the mud. I won't have my human dignity demeaned. I don't deserve to be treated like this. I've been a good wife and mother. You realize if I don't say anything now, it'll only make things worse. We have to end this whole situation at once. What will you tell the kids? When they're little, I'll think of something. When they're older, hopefully they'll realize I couldn't have done it any other way. On the eve of Molly's birthday, my husband showed up again, well past Ouroboros and drunk. Honey, I'm sorry, I got held up again. He began his usual excuses and was very surprised to find his wife's deaf silence. No offense, I promise. This is the last time me and the boys. Go. Painting did not let him finish Molly. As you say, dear, I listen and obey. He tried to joke her, puzzled by the strange behavior of his wife. At once, he went into the bedroom. The woman went into the room to change her clothes. Come to me. Drunkenly smiling, Charles patted the bed. I want to make love to you. What a pretty little robe you have on. I haven't seen it. What's under the bachelor? He grabbed his wife's wrist with one hand and put the other hand behind her sinus and squeezed her breasts painfully. Don't you dare touch me, Molly lashed out. The robe smelled. Why are you taking offense? So what if I drank a little? Imagine, I get tired. You liked my caresses? Not stubborn. You're my wife and you have to sleep with me. Capricious. On the lips, the man said. I'm disgusted to be in bed with you, Molly said, looking at her husband. Why did I notice only now that there is no tenderness or love in his eyes? The gorilla she is.
The husband was not the least bit upset by his wife's strange behavior. He did not even suspect that she was aware of his adventure. In a minute, Charles was already sleeping peacefully. The morning was gray and rainy. It matched the mood Molly was in that day. She accepted congratulations, but there was no joy. She was about to have a difficult conversation with her husband. Good morning, my love. Smiling, Charles entered the kitchen. He had already tidied himself up. He was clean-washed, shaved, and with expensive cologne. In his hand, he held a large box tied with brightly colored ribbon. I have long thought about what to give myself for my birthday and decided that the bread oven is an indispensable thing. In the kitchen, you will have more time for you. Do you like the present? With these words, he solemnly placed the box on the table and tried to kiss his wife. She pulled away and got up from the chair without even looking at the gift. Do I have a present for you too? For me, Charles was surprised. You intrigue me. Smiling, he followed his wife into the hallway. I'm giving you freedom, Molly said calmly, pointing to the 2 suitcases of belongings. Don't you get it? Charles said confused. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm letting you go to a charming blonde, your mistress. Now you don't have to make up stories to hide your left-handedness. How do you know? Stunned Charles. It's a misunderstanding. Did you get it all wrong? Well, what better way, as your Patia called me, not to understand the high relationship between a father of 3 children and a young silly mistress, Molly said mockingly. Unfortunately, the walls of the fitting room of fashion boutique are too thin to hide the love games of a father of many children. I can't see you. Get the bread, get the stove. I don't need it. Give it to your mother. She'll have to take care of you now, she said with a sneer. Were you following me? Tried to reason the man. I had to. I wanted to be beautiful for you on my birthday. But you, to my luck, came to the same story. If it hadn't been for that accident, I would still believe that you are the best of men.
Yes, I have another woman. Charles was angry. Beautiful and well-groomed, unlike you. You've even forgotten how to put on makeup. You don't care about anything but your house and your children. Even in bed, you don't think about pleasing your husband. She's hot, passionate, fiery. Look at you. Who needs you? What could I possibly have to complain about? You're living off me. I don't care who or what I buy. It's what I think I need. I don't have to answer to anyone. You have no right to count my money. And I know you're pissed that I'm spending it on someone else. Oh, you're just a mercenary sheep who lived with me for money. I'm not sorry. Having listened to her husband's tirade, calmly said Molly, and your money is not needed. And I lived with you because I loved you. It is not a fact that you will hear these words from your mistress. She's only interested in money. Are you telling me this on purpose to spite me? I'll have you know, she loves me, and I'm happy with her. I'm not ashamed to go out in public with her. Do you resent me for leaving you? I'm offended that I realized too late what kind of man you are. You can't just kick me out like that. I have a right to this apartment. You lost that right when you ended up in bed with another woman, especially since it was a wedding gift from my parents. That won't be hard to prove. Go away. I'll see you in court. You'll be sorry you sent me away, the man threatened. You're hoping I'll pay child support, not counting on it. You'll get pennies. You're legally obligated to support the kids. Of course, laughed the man. Only my salary is partly gray, and alimony will be calculated from the white. I'll see how long you last. Alone. Who'll hire you? When was the last time you looked in the mirror? What were you trying to keep me with? Kids. I'm a man. I need variety. I'm sick of the same old stuff. So live without us for a change. The woman opened the door. Goodbye. I'll leave, Charles said, picking up the suitcases. I don't want to have to beg you to come back. He left, slamming the door in his heart. Mom, Dad's gone. What about your birthday? Are we going to celebrate it? Asked the eldest son. We will. Barely holding back tears, Molly promised. We'll go to a cafe and order something delicious. Will we go to the park? Dennis asked enthusiastically. Middle son, we can go to the park today. Did you have a fight with Daddy and he won't come anymore? Looking seriously into his mother's eyes, the boy asked again. He doesn't love us anymore. What are you, my little one? His mother hugged him. Does Daddy still love you? He's the one who got mad at me. You had nothing to do with it. You know what? Molly said firmly. I'm going to call the cafeteria and make a reservation. And you guys are going out? The four of them walked a lot, visited an amusement park. Molly tried to keep her emotions in check, but resentment toward her husband would burst out. Then he turned away from the children and imperceptibly waved away. Unsolicited tears flashed days at work. The first time was very difficult. Every now and then Nancy would call and complain about the children. Molly was nervous, made mistakes. And in the evening, she would feed everyone. After reading a story, she fell into bed for the night, not having the strength even to undress. She woke up in the middle of the night, distributed the bed. After undressing, she lay down again. Until morning. I filed for divorce, Molly told her mother. We'll have to wait. Don't you have any regrets? I try not to. Of course it's hard after all these years together, but I'm not going to forgive cheating. Mother sighed, shook her head. Do as you please. But it would be better to think how the kids are without a father. No one prevents him from communicating with them. But you can see for yourself that he hasn't called once, hasn't come. What are you doing here? One day Molly heard her husband's voice. Working, as you see. The woman answered calmly. You work here? Did you come here on purpose to follow me? Why would I follow you? I think we've got it all figured out. We're waiting for the divorce. But for some reason, you're working at this firm. Charles walked in, barely containing his irritation and glancing furtively at the employees who were staring at them in amazement. If you care so much about that question, I'll answer it. James made a concession to me and accepted a part-time position. If that's all you wanted to know, then I will continue to work. Quit here immediately. I don't want everyone here to know you're my wife, ex-wife, corrected Molly. Hey, Sue. Everyone who's supposed to know I'm your ex-wife knows I'm your ex-wife,
If your mistress doesn't know, now would be a good time to warn her, so there's no surprises. You'll regret this, Charles threatened. I don't think so, Molly argued. I'm fine here. See, I don't even complain to anyone about you not giving me money for child support. What would any decent person do in your place? No way, Charles said through his teeth. It was only after the divorce that you kicked me out. And it could have been the same old thing.
But you weren't smart enough to realize it in time? The annoyed man left, and the woman sank into her thoughts. I was wrong about the paycheck. It's not enough. My husband won't pay alimony unless there's a court order. But there's no way I'm going to ask him for it. I'd rather starve myself. The conversation threw her off balance, but she had already accepted the idea that now she had to rely on herself. She realized that this meeting had to happen at some point, but it still left an unpleasant residue. That's it. We are no longer husband and wife, Charles announced cheerfully. When they left the courtroom, I was free. Say, Molly asked him, don't you have any conscience that you did such a despicable thing to us? Did you make the decision to break up on your own? You could have pretended that you hadn't seen anything, and everything would have remained as it was. I guess the only thing I don't like about for this whole thing is that you're working with me. I don't think that's gonna last long. You quit. You don't make a lot of money. Were you counting on alimony? I warned you it wouldn't be much. Appealing to my conscience is useless. Enough! I've kept you for myself all these years. I don't want anything from you, but you have to provide for the children. I provide everything according to the law, and I respect the law. He laughed and walked away. Molly clenched her teeth, but didn't show any sign of being hurt. She knew that all her husband's reproaches were untrue. She loved him. They had worked together from a simple manager to the head of the department. And never had a woman demanded more from him than he could give her. A week later, the doorbell rang in the evening. Molly was waiting for her mother and children to come home from a walk, so she opened the door without even asking who it was. Miranda! Molly was surprised to see her mother-in-law. Hello. Hello, Molly! Irritatedly greeted that mercantile bitch. She attacked her former daughter-in-law from the doorstep. She threw her husband out, and she's pumping money out of him. Immediately refuse alimony. He is not obliged to pay you. He does not pay them to me and his children, which himself and asked to give birth. He wanted to be a father of many children, just didn't realize he was taking on a lot of responsibility, Molly argued. I kicked him out of the house so the kids wouldn't see their father cheat. It's not easy to support two families. If he doesn't have enough for his mistress, that's his problem. He's a parent like me. What can you do without his money? You had kids hoping you'd spend the rest of your life on his back. Kids are our decision. Charles made me quit my job to take care of the house and the kids. Don't blame me for that. He left you the apartment even though he could have claimed part of it, screaming mother-in-law. The apartment is mine. Charles has no right to it. You may have forgotten that my parents gave it to me as a wedding present, so let him look elsewhere for his lovemaking. He's made his choice. While you were at home, my son worked from morning till night. I always suspected you only wanted money from him. Wrong, Molly said quietly. I loved him and was faithful. He ruined everything. Now he doesn't even come to see the children. And they're waiting. If he's sick of me, what does that have to do with the kids? And he gave them up for his mistress. Don't use the kids as an excuse. I'll make sure his official salary is as low as possible so you don't get anything. You've been earning a pittance. Let's see how you live with your brood. Why are you doing this to me? Molly asked tiredly. The conversation was beginning to bore her. They had never gotten along well with her mother-in-law, but today's conversation had been the most unpleasant. I was hoping you'd make Charles come to his senses. Will you help me so I can help you? Miranda laughed. Home. Son is just now getting a taste of real family life. What did he see with you? Diapers, runny noses, sleepless nights. A wife who meets you in a bathrobe or a stretched t-shirt. Now he's got a real woman by his side. You're no match for her, and you're gonna regret kicking him out. He came crawling back to beg me to come back. But I don't think so, Molly said, and pointed to the door. She was fed up with the insults that her mother-in-law was hurling at her. Get out of my house before I call the police. I don't want to hear or see you or your son again. Damn you! You'll be sorry if I don't give up child support. Molly closed the door. Miranda's angry words still echoed in her ears. We were really happy with Charles, she thought. Why does it look like I'm with the kids now? Why is he cheating on me? Are you upset about something? Her mother asked her sympathetically when she returned from a walk with the children. My mother-in-law came by. What does she want you to do to get me to give up alimony? That bastard! I can't believe she thought of something like that. It's a good thing the guys didn't hear her yelling in here. Mommy! Molly cried. It's so hard for me. I don't know why they're doing this to me. Why do they think I lived with Charles? For money? Miranda even accused me of having children on purpose to avoid working. I'm a good specialist and had children with a man I love. Don't worry, everything will work out. You're smart, beautiful. You'll meet a real man. Nancy comforted her daughter. She felt sorry for her, supported her, saw how difficult it was for her. Now, what are you talking about? The young woman smiled sadly. Who needs me with 3 children? And I don't need anyone. It's good that I have you. She hugged her mother, pressed herself against her, as in her childhood when she was looking for protection. You're so pale. You've lost weight. Her mother pitied her, of course, to go through something like this. All the juices they've drained out of you. Molly smiled sadly. She was ashamed to admit to her mother that she was starving so that the children could have everything as they used to have. She was desperately short of money. She had to save on herself, but she dared not ask for help, because then she would have to sign her own insolvency. She just had to be patient until the end of the probation period, she reassured herself. 2 months later, one by one, the children were given places in kindergartens. And another month after the youngest child started kindergarten, Molly went to work full-time. Molly got a call from her secretary. James is summoning you to his office? She walked fearfully into the supervisor's office. Hello, have a seat. The man noted to himself that Molly had changed a lot in 3 months. Her face looked haggard, her eyes faded, but she was still attractive. He admired her. I've invited you here to tell you that we've decided to hire you permanently. The probationary period is over, so your salary increases accordingly. When he announced the amount, she fainted with excitement. Nancy! Shouted James to the doctor's secretary. Urgent! Molly, are you all right? He carried her to the sofa, undid the buttons of her blouse, opened the window, sat down beside her, and took her hand in his. Her thin palm sank into the man's strong hands. Do not interfere. Pulled him away from the woman doctor. Better yet, all of you, leave the office, Bush's voice affectionately spoke the doctor. When she saw that the woman came to her senses. Why did you scare us so much? When was the last time you ate well and had a good rest? You are obviously nervous exhaustion. You should work less and get more fresh air. You've got yourself all bent out of shape, haven't you? I should tell James to take care of his staff, he joked. Well, what happened to me? Anxiously looking at a stranger in a white coat, Molly asked. I don't remember anything. You fainted. But there's no danger now. I'll ask James to send you home. No, the woman objected and tried to get up. She felt dizzy and threw herself helplessly on the pillow. I feel much better now. I lie down a little longer, and everything will be all right. The doctor came out. She regained consciousness, informed the chief. But I have a sneaking suspicion she fainted. How? James was surprised. Why? Well, you'd have to ask her. For my part, I can only advise you to feed her well and send her home. She's got a lot of nerve. Let her rest for a couple of days, and then I would see her again. Prescribe vitamins. And he also chewed thoughtfully on the bottom of his glasses, looking at the chief. And myopic with his eyes. We should find out what caused the nervous breakdown. I don't like her to go to the hospital. She's got 3 kids. It's that serious. I can't assess it. We're gonna have to watch her right away. You got it? I'll do it. James nodded and entered the office. You scared me. He looked at the woman sympathetically. The doctor said to send her home. I'm feeling much better now. She sat up, feeling a little dizzy. She was embarrassed that she had fainted in front of her boss. They'll fire her, the woman thought fearfully, and said aloud, I'll go then. You're not going anywhere. I'll call a car and walk you home. I'll get there myself. Why walk me home? She looked apprehensively at the man, who was very determined. I'll take the car, James ordered. Don't listen. Are you going to object? I'm waiting downstairs. He commanded sternly and looked so that Molly was afraid to object. 10 minutes later, they were in the car. Driver, stop at the wave, the man asked softly. He opened the door in front of Molly and held up his hand, inviting her in. Why are we going to a restaurant? The woman was surprised. You ask a lot of questions, he replied evasively and led the way into the room. We'll have a set lunch, James asked the waiter. Have a seat, he pointed to a table. And we'll just ride along with you. He glanced at his watch. I'm scheduled for lunchtime. Would you mind keeping me company? James looked merrily at his companion. He was added to by the confusion the woman was in. Well, tell me about it, he commanded as the table was set. About what? Molly looked at him uncomprehendingly. Why did you have a nervous breakdown? I didn't have a nervous breakdown. I just felt bad. Don't you ever have one of those? She looked defiantly into the eyes of this handsome man and immediately averted them. Embarrassed, she blushed. It doesn't happen. And the doctor said, You're starving. Why are you starving? I want to know what is happening to my employees. The firm's prosperity depends on it. Tell her where her husband works, why he doesn't help. I'll find out anyway. I'm just going to have to get my people involved. So you'd better tell her yourself. Does your husband work at your firm? We divorced 3 months ago. Let's say it happens. Did you take the divorce hard? Yes. Painfully, Anna struggled to keep from crying. Keep going, keep going. Why do I have to pry information out of you? James felt a muffled emotion rising inside at the strange man who had abandoned this nice woman. He's helping. He pays alimony. Or did you agree on some kind of amount? He pays alimony, but not much, because his salary is grayed out at your company. Why did you get divorced? Didn't see eye to eye? He got another woman. Molly's strength left her, and she cried. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She sobbed, trying to control her emotions, but she couldn't. Too much had happened lately. She'd been holding it all in for too long. Shit, James swore. I'm sorry to have brought you to tears by asking. He realized he was interested in this woman for a reason. He had liked her when he had first seen her husband's name, Charles, in his office. Molly replied quietly, still sobbing. I guess what happened to you today was my fault. What's your fault? The woman tried to smile. I understand that you deliberately denied yourself everything so that the children would not be hungry. The woman was silent, afraid to look him in the eye. Is there someone to help you? My mom. I told you she helps with the kids. I see. I think your financial situation will improve soon. I'm already very grateful for the amount of money I'm getting now. James looked at his watch. We should go. The driver will take us. Where to? I'll take a cab. Why don't I take a cab? Molly stammered and immediately stopped talking, meeting the boss's firm gaze. Why are you so early today? Have you been crying? Did something happen? Nancy, the daughter, was bombarded with questions. You don't look well. You're sick. Mommy, can I make a suggestion? Molly asked in a weak voice. I got sick at work. They let me go home. I'll take my mind off it. Oh, poor me. I shook my head. The mother opened her daughter with a plaid and quietly went into the kitchen so as not to disturb. Anna lay with her eyes closed. Imagination drew the face of the chief thick, dark as a crow's wing. Hair styled in a model's cut. Inquisitive gaze, burning eyes. So dark you couldn't see the pupil. A thin, straight nose and a stubborn chin cute. Dimples in the middle. The woman smiled, remembering how scared he'd been when she'd fainted. What are you thinking about? Molly suddenly realized. Your marital bed is not yet cold, and you are already looking back at the other. Finally, a good night's sleep. Watching her. Charles, James wants to see you, the receptionist said. You don't know what the man was nervous about. He didn't like to be in the chief's office because it was usually to give him a beating. No, shook her head at the girl. He didn't voice a reason. Hello, James. Charles spoke in a voice trembling with excitement. His hands were sweating. He discreetly wiped his palms on his pants, but it did little good. Moisture was forming under his nose. The man took a handkerchief out of his jacket pocket and blotted the drops of sweat. Pulling himself together, he looked questioningly at his boss. Sits down. The boss's look did not bode well. Charles became even more nervous, trying to remember where he had made a mistake. Charles, I have a few questions. They may seem strange, but your future stay in our company depends on how truthful your answers are. The man's heart sank into his heels. What have I done wrong? He wondered, and there had been no remarks. I'm listening to you, Charles mumbled. You married? The bitch complained. The ex-husband thought at once and felt more confident, hoping for male solidarity. Divorced. Just a few months ago. Why divorced? Well, it's a personal matter. I'd rather not discuss it. Charles is tense again. To understand what this whole conversation is about. I asked you to answer truthfully, James said irritably. You must understand, the man said ingratiatingly. The wife stopped looking after herself, turned into a neighbor. She was embarrassing to be seen in public. Besides, she turned out to be mercantile. She was only interested in my money. He was silent, but meeting the heavy, not boding well yet. Look of the chief confessed, yes, I fell in love with someone else. But I'm a man. I want the attention of a young girl. And Lisa is beautiful, charming, always in shape. Sir? As a man, you must understand me. I don't owe you anything, James replied muffled. But you owe your ex-wife. As far as I know, you left her with 3 small children, but I pay alimony. Charles excused himself. It's the law. Yeah, legally, you're fine. What about your conscience? You know that the other day, your ex-wife fainted from nervous exhaustion because she doesn't know how to support the children on the pennies that you pay her by law. Well, I gotta live on something too. I've learned some interesting things about you. A man with the eyes of a frightened Charles. Turns out you took out a car loan for your mistress. So what? I have the right.
She's my new family. Molly has a car too. Listen to me, you Casanova. James bent everything across the table, grabbed Charles by the tie, and pulled him towards him. You count the amount due now, not from your total paycheck, and reimburse everything you owe in alimony since the divorce. He let the startled subordinate go, barely catching his breath. Sarik, if I find out that you did not do it, and I will definitely check, you can look for a new job.
I will do my best to make sure that you are not even a manager in any decent firm. I'm being very clear. Yeah, I hear you. Stuttering with fear, Prilipin Charles. Don't tell me you've awakened your conscience. Don't you dare. You said I insisted. Go to work. The miserable, scared to death man went back to his room. His coworkers paid him no attention, and he didn't know what to do. The amount of the loan was decent, but he couldn't refuse to comply with his boss's order either. 2 days later, Molly listened puzzledly to her ex-husband's confused speech, who was beating under his breath, trying to explain his noble impulse. Molly, please forgive me. I have thought it over and have seen fit to pay child support from my entire paycheck. I feel responsible for my decision to leave you with the kids. So I feel it's right to support you in any way I can to make sure you don't need anything. Charles, I can't believe you're saying this. The woman was surprised. And it's very noble of you to do this. If you want to hang out with the kids, come over anytime we're home. I've already told you I won't mind. No matter what happens between us, you're their father, they love you. She looked at her ex-husband gratefully, still not fully believing that now she wouldn't have to save money on herself to feed the children. She would be very surprised if she knew the true background of Charles's broad gesture. Mama does not understand what has happened to Charles, but it is a miracle, she told Nancy in the evening. With that salary, the elements are going to make a great life for us. I always knew Charles was a good man, Mother declared. Only he's confused. Maybe the divorce was a mistake, she asked hopefully. If he wants to come back. She didn't. Let's not touch the subject of divorce, Molly said. I've already turned that page. I want to prove to Charles and my mother-in-law that I lived with him for love, not for money. And I'm perfectly capable of earning my own money. They both forgot I was worth something before I settled down with the kids. Honey, when can I pick up my car from the dealership? You promised me a week ago? Capricious pouted at Lisa's lips. She watched her lover eat dinner and didn't understand why he didn't notice her. A fresh manicure and a new silk robe that opened to reveal seductive tanned legs. You're promising a whole week? Listen. Charles nodded nervously with his fork on the edge of his plate. We won't be able to do that anytime soon. The girl stared at him in bewilderment. Tell me, were you joking just now? No. The man threw his fork on the table, squeezed his hands, and looked at his friend carefully. I won't be able to buy you a car. I don't have the money. But you promised. Lisa looked at him uncomprehendingly and was ready to use her favorite method of gift-giving, cry. Tears were already welling up in her eyes. Don't you love me anymore? Is that what you're saying? Charles grabbed the girl's hand, kissed the back of her hand, reconciled it. I can't do it now. You'll have to be patient. I have financial problems. What's wrong? Lisa pulled his arm out, grudgingly stiffening. Oh, I've already told everyone I know that I'll soon be driving a new car. Do you realize what a stupid situation you've put me in? How am I going to show my face in polite society? Everyone will laugh at me. She pulled her robe down defiantly. And anyway, you said this was going to be my wedding present. Have you changed your mind about marrying me? No, of course not. He didn't say anything. Something happened the other day. Tell me about it. Maybe I can help. I probably didn't tell you that my ex-girlfriend works at our company. Well, she found an advocate in my boss. Crying to him about how I'm small, paying child support. Charles looked at Lisa. He promised to fire me if I didn't pay my entire paycheck. That's terrible, but it's illegal. Illegal, but I have to. Otherwise, he'd give me a wolf ticket. I had to obey. But my dear, he put his hands on his chest. Please, we'll have to be patient for a while. I'll think of something. And we'll buy you a car. I promise. At least I can afford a new dress, Charles blushed. Not now. I'm sorry, don't be mad. I'll get a part-time job. I'll suck it up nights like this, and I'll make money. Trust me. I'll do anything for you. My darling! He grabbed her hand again and started kissing her passionately. Let's go to the bedroom. I can't wait to make love to you. I think you should lie down in the living room tonight, Lisa said resentfully. Why are you being such a baby? It's only temporary. So she'll hurry up on the couch. Temporary. She angrily slammed the door to the room in front of her stunned lover. I didn't realize what a workplace rest. Charles heard above his ear the disgruntled voice of James. Why clothes? Lipstick? What's the look? No decent client would tolerate a department head who just crawled out of a dumpster. Clean yourself up immediately. Yeah. Charles, jump it up. I apologize. What, you don't sleep at home? I didn't have time to change my clothes at night. I promise it won't happen again. A young mistress is more expensive than keeping a wife and 3 children. James grinned. Charles blushed but said nothing. He was confused. At home, Lisa demanded money and his paycheck was noticeably less. To satisfy his mistress's every whim, the man took a job in a cab. Honey, I miss you. You are not home all the time, she reproached him. You come in sweaty. You always smell of something. I can't remember the last time we made love. Always complaining about being tired. I have to work hard so you can have everything you want. But you still couldn't buy me a car. The girl took offense. No money. Sorry, you always have no money. When we started dating, you promised us that we could travel around the world. And now I have to stay home alone. I can't remember the last time we went to a restaurant. I'm fed up. You don't pay attention to me at all. Maybe you've fallen out of love with me. No, my love.
Everything I do for you. The girl smiled slyly. I was looking at a chain of white and yellow gold. It's the first time I've ever seen it. It goes perfectly with my new dress. You're going to buy it for me. I lay down onto the bed to expose my shapely legs.
Just not now. You wait a while. Lisa put on her puffy lips, showing with all her appearance that she was disappointed in him. She waited for her lover to get into bed. Darling, give me a hug. I've been waiting all day to touch you. She opened her robe as if unintentionally. Kiss me. The girl reached for Charles. Lisa, I'm so tired. The boss yelled at me today. Let's go to bed. He turned away from the girl, falling into a blissful sleep. Lisa looked disappointed at her missing lover. Charles had just passed out. Ugh, you're so boring. The girl turned her back to him and spoke to him. Where's my breakfast? Charles asked irritably. He was in a hurry because he wanted to fulfill his cab order before work. Lisa, I told you I was used to having breakfast every morning. Make it yourself, the girl in the bedroom said. It's very early. I want to sleep in a little longer today. By the way, you haven't forgotten that I have a chain in the salon. I need money, you need money. The man, no longer holding back, shouted, Damn it, you've got plenty of those chains. Why do you need another one? You ask for money and you can't make breakfast yourself? So I can go to work full. Molly always had a table set for me. You don't even know how to cook. That's how you talk. Lisa walked into the kitchen. She didn't look like she had much to look forward to. When you seduced me, you promised you'd fulfill my every desire. I foolishly believed you. Now you reproach me for not knowing how to cook. I didn't join you as a cook. I should have stayed with my wife. Forgive me, my love. Charles grasped, kissing angry, the girl on the lips, neck. Wherever you have to go. I'm tired. I have to work a lot. Don't be offended. I'll be sure to buy a present. Don't worry. That's it. I have to run. He's in a hurry. I even like a sandwich. He sent her an air kiss from the doorway. Charles had just gotten into the car when the phone rang. Mommy, hello. He tried to be polite. I'm in a hurry. Something urgent. Where are you going so early? Miranda asked worriedly. To work, son. I booked a trip to a sanatorium. I've always wanted to visit this city. Will you help me pay for it? Are the two of them in cahoots or what? Sorry, Mom, my printing press is broken. What printing press? I've heard you say. The one I use to print money. Charles snapped at me. Son, how do you talk to your mom? I could hear that she was about to shed a tear. Don't I deserve a vacation? Yes, you do, the son replied, sadly. But I don't have any money. What should I do? Refuse the trip? I'm sorry, dear. I can't help you. He disconnected the phone and stepped on the gas. The morning scuffle at the motel was his. He'd fallen asleep on the job again, for which he'd gotten another reprimand from his boss. Tired, close to midnight, returned home, undressing on the way, reported in a playful voice favorite. I'm going to shower and then get ready for you right away. I from hungry all on my kitty. Coming out of the bathroom, went to the kitchen, unpleasantly surprised by the dirty dishes piled in the sink, but said nothing, anticipating the passionate kisses with which he would shower the body of the young mistress. Lisa, I'm coming. Charles walked into the bedroom and stopped like a stumbling block. Things were strewn everywhere. The bed was unmade. Lisa, what's going on? Why? It suddenly began to slowly dawn on him that the girl was not in the apartment. Confused, he looked around and noticed a scribbled piece of paper on the nightstand. I don't want to live with a loser. You promised I wouldn't need anything. But you're always short of money. I can't live like that. I'll find a more worthy man who's honored to give a woman whatever she wants. Farewell. Don't look for me. Or call me. Charles crumpled the sheet, threw it heartily to the floor, fell down on the bed, and laughed. Then he cried, hysterical. What kind of an idiot would trade my wife for some pacifier? Accusing Molly of greed, and she's a saint. I'm so sorry for her. And Lisa wouldn't even talk to me.
I ran away when I realized there was nothing more to get from me. Chased a pretty shell and didn't realize I was living with a treasure. He jumped to his feet. But after all is not yet lost. I, in obedience to Molly. She will surely forgive me. We have children, and she loves me. Seely in himself the hope of being able to return to his family. Charles perked up. He really hoped his wife could forgive him. Hello, Molly, a woman heard behind her back one day as she approached her work office. The boss's voice. I need to talk to you. Come in here. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay. The sudden encounter took the woman by surprise, though thoughts of her boss occasionally crossed her mind. She remembered how attentive he'd been when she'd been sick. What does he want from me? Tormented by the unknown, she asked herself. Worried, she opened the door. I'm listening. Sit down. James jumped up and offered her a chair. I wanted to see how you were doing. I'm fine, the woman cheered up. I have no financial problems at all now. I don't know what was driving Charles, but he's been paying good alimony. Wouldn't you know who caused it? The man grinned to himself. But he said aloud, I'm happy for you. By the way, I'd like to get on a first-name basis with you. After all, I saved your life in a way. He shot a searing look out of Molly's eyes, which made her heart race. So how do you want to take the offer? I don't know, the woman replied in confusion. Is it convenient to be on a first-name basis with your boss? It's convenient. Then I can take you to a restaurant.
He was amused as he watched Molly's face blush. I wanted to do that the minute I saw you at the interview. You don't believe me? The woman looked at James in amazement. The last time we'd gone to a restaurant, it had been hard to call it a date. But I hope the next one will be pleasant. Then you'll keep me company. You're embarrassing me. She didn't know what to say to such an unexpected offer. We switched Turtle to the first name, the interlocutor reminded me. I don't see any obstacles. You are free of any obligation. I am free. What can prevent our communication? I am your subordinate, the woman said quietly, afraid to raise her eyes to James, because then he would read a different answer in her gaze. Molly, look at me, the man asked, meeting her eyes. I'm sure we're not doing anything wrong. Trust me. Where else can a man and a woman get to know each other than at work? We'll just sit in a restaurant and talk, and we won't violate any corporate ethics. If that bothers you. I agree, I'm not sure that's a good idea, especially since I have to pick up my kids from daycare after work, and I'm afraid my mom won't go for it. The kids get sick a lot. She has to take care of them. But you also need to rest at least once in a while. The man disagreed. Do you want me to talk to your mom myself? No. Molly firmly refused his help. I'll do it myself. So you'll do it? James took her at her word. I'll try, the woman said, embarrassed. But I won't promise anything. Mommy threw herself on her daughter's neck. I'm so happy. Did I miss something? The mother asked in surprise. I think I'm in love. You are? And who is he? My boss? He has a beautiful name, James. Oh, my daughter. Nancy shook her head sadly. I don't want him to break your heart. He's not like that. He's kind. He's smart. Charles was a man of word and deed at first, too. I ended up with a beanpole. Why did you do that? And it's not frowned upon. I'm grateful to him for hiring me with no experience in small children. Any other employer would have turned me down, but he didn't. You never know what drove them to seduce you, then dump you, and fire you in addition. They still get their way. And then pretend they don't know. Not had time to recover from the betrayal of her husband, and already another man is ready to open his heart. I believe it's hard to be alone. But wait, get to know him, find out what kind of man he is. Mom, he asked me out. She looked at her mother questioningly. You'll babysit. There's no other way to get to know him. I hardly see him at work. Okay, Nancy looked sadly at her daughter. I'll keep an eye on her. Thank you, Mommy. She hugged and kissed her mother. Molly, you look very pretty today. Looking at the woman with a smile, James spoke. She was wearing a modest black dress, which suited her very well. Her breasts were adorned with a string of pearls, and in her ears were earrings of the same kind. Nothing superfluous, everything was very modest. Her blonde hair lay loosely on her shoulders. A glass of wine. The man looked questioningly at his guest. She nodded in agreement. She turned her attention to the wedding ring mark on James's hand. He noticed her gaze. I was married? He poured the wine, raised his glass. I suggest we drink to getting to know each other. Molly laughed. An unusual toast. Considering that I've been working for you for 6 months, but dating at work is not. I want to learn as much about you as possible. I like you. I think about you all the time. I didn't know how to approach you because I'm privy to your family's history. He was quiet. My wife is nothing like you. She's more like your husband's mistress. You're homely, cozy. I bet you're a good cook. That's a dubious compliment. Charles used to reproach me for those qualities. Your Charles is a fool for cheating on you. James frowned. I lacked warmth. She was interested in bars, restaurants, nightclubs. At home, she always acted like there were TV cameras everywhere. She's a photo model, by the way, and quite successful. I'm surprised she agreed to have children. You have kids too? Molly, we agreed to use the first name. I'm sorry, I can't get used to it. You don't eat anything. Who did the kids stay with? Their mother. We separated peacefully, so I can see them anytime I want. He pulled a photo out of his wallet and handed it to the woman. Molly remarked, looking at the photo with interest, "If you were both successful, why did you split up?" I didn't always have what I have now. There was a time when my wife earned more than I did. The firm was just starting to grow, needed investment. She didn't want to wait. She wanted it all at once. As a result, there was someone who offered more, someone in her league, and you let her go so easily. Why torture each other? He shrugged. We talked. We discussed everything. No one is offended by anything. I wasn't prepared for my husband's infidelity. You can't be prepared for that, James objected. Treason catches up with everything suddenly. He resolutely interrupted the unpleasant conversation. Let's not indulge in any more reminiscences. I want to talk about us, Molly. I realize it hasn't been that long since your divorce, but I'm sorry to waste even a minute of my life without you. The woman looked fearfully at the man. I'll be very brief. Marry me. The unexpected proposal came as a shock. No, I can't. She was worried. I have children? What am I going to tell them? They love their father. What about you? James looked at the woman in expectation. Do you still love him too? I don't know, she admitted honestly. At first, I just wanted to die without him, especially at night. Then the heartache set in, and there was anger. I wanted to sever all relations with him, not to see or hear him. I hated all men. There was a traitor in every house. Am I a traitor in your eyes too? No, she smiled. You like me at least a little. If I have even the slightest chance, I'll wait for your heart to melt. I do like you. She looked warmly at James, but you need to learn to trust men again. Believe me, men like your Charles are one of a kind. Let's not be hasty. You haven't told me no. I'm willing to wait, but not for long. I respect your feelings, so I'm giving you carte blanche. I agree. After the meeting at the restaurant, Molly's life changed. She felt James's invisible presence all the time. He often ran into their office, asking about trivia, giving her trinkets, casually trying to touch her. I think my colleagues guess that you are interested in me. Smiling, said Molly one evening. James, when they, unable to part, sat in his car and talked. The whole female half of the company thinks you're unapproachable. I'm afraid they'll be jealous of me soon. They'd be surprised that I haven't kissed you once. The woman laughed embarrassedly. Ah, Molly. James took her hand gently, careful not to startle her. My heart is always with you. All my thoughts are of you. He stared intently into her eyes, trying to figure out what she was thinking. Then he kissed her lightly. She didn't look away. Then the man pressed his lips to hers, hugging her tightly, trying to convey the full force of his feelings in the kiss. I love you. I'm so excited to meet your family. And Mom is waiting for you to come to us, too, Molly replied quietly. On Sunday, James sat at the table, and 3 pairs of children's eyes looked at him intently. Guys, meet James. This is James, a good friend of mine. Why so formally objected the man. You can just call me Uncle Johns. I have a cottage in the country, near the lake. I invite you to visit. Will you come? He looked hopefully at Molly. She smiled with pleasure. The next weekend, the whole family rested. At the dacha they bathed, and on the evening Zorky fished. Thank you for the children. Gratefully said Molly, sitting next to James on the porch of the dacha. I have never seen them so happy. And Mom no longer looks at you as an enemy of the people. Will you marry me now? James asked and took a gold ring out of his pocket. He put it on the finger of the embarrassed woman and kissed her. Yes, she exhaled. Tears of happiness came to her eyes. I love you, and I want to be your wife. Sweetheart! James hugged her tightly, kissed her. I'd sit with you hugged for the rest of my life. Hello? One day she heard a familiar voice nearby. We can talk. Sorry, Charles. I've got a lot of work to do. It's half an hour till the end of the day, Molly replied, without lifting her head. Maybe we could have dinner together then. Charles didn't leave. She raised her head and looked at her ex-husband. He looked tired and frazzled. She knew his mistress had left him at the office. It's been rumored for 2 weeks now that your blonde girlfriend dumped you. The woman grinned. Reported already crooked, he grinned. You know how it is. News like that travels fast. You're glad. What makes you think that? I don't care. Molly, I didn't come here to fight. I came here to make peace. I want to get back to you, to the kids. I confess that I've been unfair to you. What's that I hear? Have you suddenly realized that listening is a way to live? I didn't call you that. Charles blushed, but also did not pull back your mistress when she insulted me in front of you. The woman objected stiffly. I really missed her. He tried to grab her hand, but Molly waved it away, squeamishly. Charles's gaze fell on his ex-wife's ring finger. He raised his eyes blazing at her, with jealousy, anger, despair. All the feelings mingled in his mind. And for some reason you're rejecting me, he shouted, so that his colleagues began to look around unhappily, already confused with someone else. Skank! What right do you have to yell at me, especially in front of strangers? Who am I to you? No one. I can live my life as I please, without having to answer to you. You replaced me quickly, because you met someone richer? You're so mercenary, aren't you? Mom was right, and you thought about the kids. What will they be like with a strange man? Were you thinking about the kids when you cheated on me? Molly argued. Unlike you, I'm a free woman. I remind you of that in case you've forgotten. If you had come to me 6 months ago, Molly said tiredly, I would have accepted you gladly. But now everything's changed. I realize that I don't love you anymore. And you don't understand why you decided that I would be a reserve airfield for you all my life, and how much you would stay with us until the next girl. A man who betrays you once will do it again and again, and the kids don't need you. They waited for you every day when you first left us. And then they stopped, because Daddy was more interested in screwing around in bed with his young mistress. Molly, I'm sorry. I'm wrong about everything. I admit it. Charles humiliatingly tried to grab her hand again, to kiss her. I was a fool to realize too late who I'd lost. Give me a chance, I'll make it up to you. Just hear me out, and let's meet. Just not here. He looked back cowardly. Let's have lunch tomorrow. If you're busy today, don't say no to me, please, I beg you, for the sake of our children. Let's talk. No, Charles, we won't. And not out of resentment. Molly got tired, pulled my arm. There's no more room in my heart for you. You've been too mean to me. If you want my forgiveness, I've forgiven you long ago. And another thing. There's another man in my life now. Is there no room for you? The kids love him like family. So don't get your hopes up. There's no way to get me back. Yeah, so that's how you are with me? Charles screamed in anger. Now I'm not needed. Who's the man who took my family away from me? It's me. He heard a voice behind him and turned around to find a man speaking. Man, praise, business. Standing in front of him was James, his boss. But I didn't take your wife or your children from you. You left them yourself. So there can be no claim on me, darling. He turned to Molly. Are you free? We can go home. The woman nodded. Barely holding back the tears she received, she was trembling with excitement because of the unpleasant conversation with her ex-husband. James put his arm around her, reassuring her. Then let's go. The woman picked up her purse and walked, taking James under her arm. You'll be sorry. Charles threw them back. I won't let it go. James turned slowly toward him. I'm not leaving you to work at the firm. Scandalist. We don't need you. You demoralize the team, and that affects the quality of work. You'll pick up your paperwork tomorrow. You're fired. The man went to the exit, then turned around again. By the way, I'm not firing you under the leave article. You don't have to thank me. Charles hurled curses back at them in impotent anger, but James and Johanna could no longer hear him, enjoying their newfound happiness.